Hello everyone on the internet and thanks for tuning in. I'm Ryukiba of Ryukiba Toku.
And welcome to another episode of Toku Bros. I am your host, the Winter Cosplayer.
Wanda Rider!
And that disastrous intro is that of the.
It's
I can't
basically
even
the intro
describe.
to every ride book, basically. That's what that was.
No. It's the combination. It's when they use two books.
No, not even. It's even before that. It's when they brought the first ride book out. Anyway, so we are still
Well,
talking about the
we are
amazing
still back.
series of Kamen Rider Saber.
Yeah, so every fortnightly now on this series, we are talking about Master Rider Saber. On the last episode, we talked about the first two episodes, giving our thoughts and such. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4.
That's if you guys
So,
have forgotten how to count. So yay! Three, four.
anyway, so starting off with episode 3.
I'd
So
probably
we give
say,
it.
like, before we talk about the episodes, let's talk about some Kamen Rider news. So, have you seen any of the have you seen any of the magazine scans?
Of.
Well, they have been showing off a couple more forms in the magazine scans. I know I've seen them. I know I like them. I just can't remember their names or anything. This is great, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, right?
But no, I have seen the new scans, and I wish I remembered what they were called. We were also shown, like, yeah, we've had more details come out about the Kamen Rider Zero One movie come out as well. So we've seen that, yeah, we've seen Hell Rising Hopper, we've seen that Metal Cluster Hopper is fighting Kamen Rider Eden, and this is obviously Kamen Rider news in general at the moment. As well, and yeah, most recently, there's been a teaser released from Kamen Rider Eternal, saying that he will actually be appearing in some sort of Kamen Rider appearance soon. So
Mm.
that's actually that's excited quite a few of the fans as well.
Well, I mean, Eternal had a little bit of a fan following on his own as it is, anyways.
I mean, this is specific. I mean, like, because obviously the artist, I forget his name, Matsu Wado or something. You can tell my Japanese is amazing. But
Oh, very.
he did, he was Kamen Rider Eternal, and he also did the theme for Drive. So,
Okay.
like for this is specifically an Eternal, like Kamen Rider Eternal thing. He did have his spin-off movie, and there is a teaser with his Gaia memory that has appeared online, and so it'd be interesting to see what they come up with for Kamen Rider Eternal.
Aye.
Okay, so should we
Well,
start actually talking about Kamen Rider Saber episode 3 then.
after you.
Okay, so Kamen Rider Saber
Well,
episode.
can I just before you start, I will premise. So this episode 3 and 4 was in a way a two-part.
It was.
It was a two-part story, so to say, and it introduced. It had the introduction of Kamen Rider Buster. I will say.
Basta! Yes, it
Yep. Our first non one sorry first earthbound Wonder Rider, if we want to call that specifically.
I don't know what you
um
mean.
so for the viewers, so we have Saber and Blades, which are more akin to the fairy tale uh, mythos, if you will, of the Master Rider, whereas Buster is more not in the mythical realm side, but he's more earth based.
You mean as in his power? Because I think his power was something like.
Not just that, not just in the pun, but literally it is said in the episode that he is earth based swordsman.
Okay, that.
And it's, you can pretty much see that in the suit and everything, that he's pretty much like the how can I say the
Well,
lone wolf
because
type
again,
sheep, whatever you want to call it.
you've got the whole thing. I think it's the sort, like the realm of Legos or something they call themselves.
Yes.
So we're aware that Kamen Rider Buster in this kind of two-parter intro to Kamen Rider Buster, we learn that again he's a completely different house, if you will, and that he has a son. So like people can talk about things like Kamen Rider Kronos and whatnot, who are also fathers and stuff. But specifically, this is like a Kamen Rider who's a father to a child, who's like not, as far as we can see at the moment, has no real connection to the fighting per se. But when it comes to episode 3, I mean, I do like a lot of what Scott. I mean, for episodes 3 and 4, you can talk about your feelings in a second. But I'll say, just to give a general to begin with, I'll say episodes 3 and 4, I've had, I felt good vibes watching both of these episodes for different reasons, which I'll get into. How about yourself?
In general,
Yeah, for go on
I
3 and 4.
for 3 and 4 as a whole in general, I actually don't mind this two-part story in general. I like the characters in general. I liked the introduction of, and I've got to remember, Kento, who
Kento, that
we
was, I believe, right at the end of episode 2, yeah?
correct the guy on the flying carpet, who we believe should be Master Rider Espada, the yellow or lightning swordsman.
That was revealed right at the end of episode 4.
Correct. But we'll get to that when
I
we
mean,
get to
no, so to be straight up with this, we have all already learned that the main villain is a guy called Kamen Rider Caliber, and
Yes.
Espada is actually his son. So that's going to be something that people are going to be talking about right into episode 5. So when it comes
Okay.
So when it comes to episode 3, I will say I liked a lot of the unique and retro characteristics of not just the episode, but what they seem to be setting down for the series overall. As weird as this narrator Tassel might be, he definitely gives me the vibes of the Kaku Ranger narrator, as well as the owners of the Donut Van in Wizard. But ultimately, the introduction of Sora, the name of the young boy, is definitely giving me like throwback vibes to the true roots of Kamen Rider from the Showa era, in dealing with the negative points of view a youngster might have in order to teach them a good lesson. This also gives in making like Kamen Rider Buster a father. It adds like a whole for me personally, it adds a whole new dynamic as well as introducing a ridiculously macho new rider. I mean, we've had like macho riders over the years, like Axe Form from Den-O springs to mind. I'll say that I actually really like this. And even if I get a little bit skeptical about having our hero, the novelist, as a rookie rider, which is a bold move, even if it is a bit risky. I mean, what did you think of everything so far?
Just on episode 3 alone. So I thought introducing a non, if you want to call it, sort of like from a Fire Emblem side of things, like a house. So rather than having that kind of rider, that they went left field and brought in a Earth-based rider, swordsman, whatever you want to call it. I thought that was ballsy, like so early into the game. I loved it personally, and it gave me. And I'm gonna. I don't know how you feel about this, but I've got two riders. Also, one rider, one ranger in mind that it gave me similar vibes to. Birth and Geki Chopper.
As in, are you talking like in terms of look?
Geki Chopper for the masculinity kind of thing. Birth for the fact that it's different.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is
Yeah, because I can
how
see that Birth had like quite. Yeah, when you talk about Birth, it had quite a different vibe to O's.
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
can get that. I mean, like I'd say in terms of look, everyone's ripping on the helmet looking like Deno. But yeah, like in terms of that power aesthetic, I can definitely see the Birth comparison easily, of course.
Um, but I will premise straight off the bat, I love his sword. That said, I'm just going to nitpick one thing that I noticed. The way that he was, carrying his sword along, it had two straps looped through on
Yeah, I
different points.
noticed that. Yep, yeah, I noticed that.
Then, how the hell are you supposed to unsheath that thing off the strap? You have to have a second prop sword. If you see what I mean, it is so unpractical. That's just a me thing.
I think
There were no.
practicality.
I'm just.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm just nitpicking here. I'm sorry. Like, granted, you can unbutton it, whatever, fine. But I'm just looking at it from a practicality standpoint. That there was no place, there was no buttons whatsoever to untie that thing. So it just looked so impractical in
Well,
my mind.
see, like, I mean, because I remember, I kind of know what you're talking about, but I'd also say that, when it comes to the sword itself, he's also dragging it, like, I think it kind of like almost a little bit Shinken Red, but mainly from an anime perspective. Like the whole dragging the sword around and just swinging this massive sword around.
I'll no no.
Like, it also
I'll
has, like, handles
one up you.
within the
Can
blade
I? No
itself,
no
which
no
I
no.
thought was quite
Can
clever.
I one up you?
Go on,
Axel.
Axel. Okay, right, I can kind of see that. But I
Because Axel drags his blade. Remember when he wasn't even in henshin form? When it was just a bloody human, he would drag his
Yeah,
blade.
that was a comedy moment. But like I think, for Axel it was kind of like a comedy moment kind of thing. Whereas at least for I can't remember his real name, but for Buster, it's like it was part of the macho act. It's kind of like because the one thing I was literally coming on to next, and I'll come on to it now actually, is like you look at this character, it's like it's definitely something straight out of a Japanese RPG. And the vibe I've been getting, like even mainly including episode 3, is this very big RPG, like Japanese RPG vibe, as opposed to everyone's like making these massive wizard comparisons, which I do also see. But knowing that RPGs are massive in Japanese modern culture and like gaming culture, I'm definitely getting that whole Japanese RPG vibe from Saber at the moment. And even where I've got like very little knowledge of the Zelda universe, I mean, we've got this mage woman, I think her name's Sophia or something. And that's kind of like it just adds to the whole Elvian thing that this series seems to be trying to establish in its premise.
Well, before we continue on with the story, I'm just gonna quickly finish on Buster for a minute. That's
Mm-hmm.
by saying that at the end of the day, I like Buster in general. While I can nitpick on his suit and bits and bobbies, I love the sword. I love the whole macho
I love his
style of
character.
him.
Yeah, I love his
Yeah,
character.
I agree. And it adds that. How can I word it? It's what the other two riders needed. Is that
Definitely, he
um,
complements them quite well. I mean, especially in episode 4.
I mean, you got a newbie. Yeah, I was going to say you got a newbie, you got a show off, if you will, that being Blades. That look, this is how you do it, and then you got a macho, and then it kind of balances it all really well.
I'll agree with that. And like, the one thing I'll say, like, especially when it comes to storyline, is like we're now being told that, oh yeah, I mean, it was kind of hinted at a little bit in episode 3, and they kind of elaborated a little bit more in episode 4, in that he's lost, like he's clearly lost his memory. he's had this Wonder Ride book the whole time, and yeah, I think they call it the Sword of Rekka, and yeah, the name of his actual saber. Uh,
Yes.
and so yeah, like yeah, I mean, again, it's a little bit cliche where they're talking about this whole amnesia thing for our hero, and so yeah, it'll be interesting, even if it's a bit cliche, a bit done before. It will still be interesting to see how it develops, how this storyline develops.
Mm.
What did you think? I mean, yeah, like me knowing that you're not overly familiar with Showa Rider, how did you feel about the young boy Sora?
Well, the sun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like just kind of quickly gloss over it. Like, like a big. I mean, obviously in this episode,
On,
we see him. He picks up a
honestly,
blank Wonder Ride book, and gets teleported away,
yeah,
and May's all guilty and stuff. How did you feel about that?
meh. I mean, on one hand, I like the chemistry between and how they introduce the father-son aspect. I really like that, as opposed to just the bog standard macho man. There is vulnerability in him, and you can see it when he talks about how much he loves his son,
Definitely.
and it shows rather than your how can I say Birth or say Chopper, who are like your different riders, if you will, or rangers in regards to Gex Chopper. In this circumstance, not only is he not part of the Legos swordsman, he has a life, and it
Yes, I'll
shows
agree with
that.
that. I'll definitely agree with
And
that.
not only is he that, and again, I'm going to use the ugly duckling reference, if you will, like in that he's different, but in a way, he has a life. He is not only the Earth swordsman, he has his own story. He has his own, well, again, I'm going to say life again, but he has his roots.
Definitely. No, I mean, I'll agree with you totally. I mean, it's just, I mean, to kind of end the point and then go on to episode four, I'll end by saying that, like, obviously I was more asking about the son's perspective. I mean, like, when it comes to, like, we're talking about Buster, like, you're talking about Buster, like, I've always felt that, watching Showa Rider, there's always been, like, they've always, like, included young children and their dilemmas and trying to address, like, the children that it's supposed to be aimed for. So, like I am familiar with what they called the Kamen Rider Scouts or Kamen Rider Tai in Japanese. It's like, I appreciated seeing, like, bearing in mind Heisei Rider didn't really do it, like, at all. Like, maybe one or two children, like, for example, the girl in Kamen Rider Blade. But instead, like, where we've got Kamen Rider Saber now, our second Reiwa series, they've presented Sora, and again, like, I remember him quite vividly because I'm, like, looking at him. I'm like, I'm sure I've seen this child somewhere before, so he might have appeared in Sentai or even possibly Zero One or something, or it could be a case of I think that all Japanese children look alike. But I'll say that, him, like, coming out with things, like, again, that whole negative directive of, oh, well, I don't like reading and stuff. It's like he's addressing, again, those child stereotypes of seeing something that's really positive as negative,
Mm.
and then trying to teach, oh no, actually this is positive because, and I absolutely love that idea. And like, again, they play around with a lot of ideas in episode 3 and 4, like, especially where there was a big fan theory going around that Sophia from, the woman at the top, was actually the girl that disappeared at episode 1. But I believe that episode
That's what
3 wrote that idea off when they start talking about our main rider's amnesia problem. So, like, going into episode 4, I did genuinely enjoy this episode. Like, I can't think that, when we look at the actual monster of the week that we had, like, I remember at the very beginning of episode 3, this monster was like, I'm not a lizard. But even before he said that, I'm like, I knew that looked like a salamander, because I know what a salamander looks like. And so, like, we see this kind of detective work from our main rider, and then he's, like, going through all the books. And I thought that was kind of like, I mean, it's kind of a real tough one because obviously the main theme for Saber, like, the motif, if you will, especially for the henshin devices, is books. So yeah, so of course this guy's going to be looking through books as opposed to going on a certain popular search engine. But you know, it's like stuff. But even the stuff that he was talking about, it just seemed like, especially when he's making all these Japanese references, that it should have been something that a novelist should have already known. But again, that's kind of like an opinion. But I kind of got the process that he went through was to sort of to show kids and encourage kids to do reading and research.
If I might,
Go on.
I was I was gonna well, number one, I like the, as you call it, detective work that he did. That it's, and I'm gonna put it in contrast to what Double does with the detective work. How Philip goes into his, if you will, what was it, like Mind Palace or whatever, to look through the archive, if you will.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
so
Yeah,
this
like
is, and this is his, and in this case, in Saber's circumstance, this is like a real life version or manual version of detective work. And on one hand, I liked it, but on another hand, it felt very, and I really don't want to use the word cliche, that it's a monster of the week that they just yanked out of a novel. Whilst I know that's what the theme is, it just feels very, oh look, it's from this story kind of thing. If you see where I'm going with it.
I kind of do, but I think yeah, like I think I mean yeah, like especially as a gaijin, as a non-Japanese, like I was watching it and I appreciated kind of the lesson it taught
Right.
anyway. But again,
The
like, yeah, but when you bring up Double, when you bring up Kamen Rider Double, I mean again, you got Philip. He's like he's got that sort of
yeah,
kooky power that, and again, and then when he does his research, I mean, all right, he's holding a book, but you got to remember it's kind of like a virtual thing where he's then
yeah,
in a virtual
yeah. I
virtual
know.
library, and then he just has to say the word, like the code word, if I remember
Yes,
correctly,
I know.
and the thing
But
will appear up. But what you got to remember is where we're living in the age of internet searches. We've then got this novelist, our main writer, whose
yeah,
name still eludes me. Uh, it's Toma. Why am I forgetting his name? His name's Toma. Right. So we've got Toma, who's then literally going through books in his bookstore, which is again it's old fashioned. So it's not. I'd even say it's the opposite of cliche, which is what you've been saying. But yeah, but again, I actually, even though I can mock it and criticize it, but I also appreciate that again,
yeah,
it's teaching kids to read, it's teaching kids
yeah.
to research,
Fair enough.
and you know, and again, the lesson it kind of taught about the salamander thing, and then kind of putting the jigsaw piece, yeah, the puzzle, the
Yeah,
yeah, putting the jigsaw
yeah.
pieces together. I absolutely appreciate it, even if I
No, I agree.
can
No, 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 I
criticize at the
agree
same
with that.
time.
I agree with that, right? But the thing I took more in regards to the monster of the week wasn't the salamander thing. It was what was it Caliber that spawned the cat?
Oh, we're now
Sorry.
talking about yeah. I was gonna get onto like that new villain.
Okay, okay,
I don't
okay,
remember his
fine, fine,
name,
fine.
but yeah.
Right, yeah, yeah. See, I researched that because I had to, because I recognized, right. So that character's name, when it came to what was it, Buster having a toe to toe with uh uh this
This new
bigger
guy,
monster,
yeah.
correct, called Disaster.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
I remember seeing the name, yeah.
right, right. While the name is absolutely atrocious, so to say, now what interested me more is the voice actor.
Okay.
I recognized it, and
No,
it's
I
the
didn't.
main villain from My Hero Academia,
Oh, okay.
and so the what was it? Let me just double check because I called up. So the actor's name is Uchiyama Koki,
Okay.
who plays Tomura Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. And that's why I
Boku no
recognize the
Hero.
very eerie style. Uh, how can I say
Voice?
characteristic? Yeah, pretty much. Um, and it works. That eerie vibe works, if you will, and I loved it. But when it comes to just the story, and before I touch on the whole power up thing, the story for the two-part story I actually liked, and it was again a fantastic introduction to
Buster.
Buster. I liked how it, even if it was just a minuscule bit, but it talks about how Kento feels the guilt of not telling Torma about the insomnia, and that also what gives me more, wanting more to know more about the story.
Well, I think it was more. I'm not 100% sure if it was guilt. I think it was more of a case of he then worked out during the course of mainly episode 3. Oh, he clearly doesn't remember anything, even though he's had this Wonder Ride book with him the whole time. And then I
Yeah.
think, and then it's like when Buster turns up, he's then like, look, give him some, like he is the chosen one. He's got this book. He was there 15 years ago. And Buster was like, oh, was he then? Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, and then again, like we see in episode 4, this evolution of the trust. Buster then gives over to Toma, especially like exchanging the ride books. I think it was he got the Jack and the Beanstalk one, and he gave him a Hedgehog one.
Yes.
So that's like the powers that we're going to talk. I mean, I'll let you talk about it, and then it's like, to address kind of like the points you were making. It's like we do see kind of that again, that story development, and it's and again, like I'm also like wanting to see what happens next as well.
But in regards to, and just to touch on, what's it, Blades? He's just Blades. Although, to put it politely, it's me.
I knew he was going to say that.
But anyway, yeah, as you were mentioning, in regards to the power up, there's two powers I want to touch on. How um, Saber first tries to use Peter Fantasista, but
Oh
then,
yeah, I definitely want to talk about that.
but then fails, and then Blades uses it and then succeeds. So it gets me thinking: is there another Wonder Ride book for it that's bluish for him to complete a set, almost like a O's Star, how you have a color combo, if you will, but then you have a prime color trio for what do you call it?
Yeah,
Saber, who then had Brave Dragon, which was red, Peter Fantasista, which was blue, and then he had the Needle something or other.
Needle Hedgehog, which was yellow, yeah.
Yeah. And then it was just a smash up of primary colors. And I was like, okay, so in episode 4, we get a not super form, if you will. And it was just like.
I mean, not super form, go on.
No, I was going to say, it just felt like a right old slap and dash, really.
I disagree.
No. I'm serious. It just felt like a forced, like O's kind of.
Maybe a little forced, but I don't know about like sort of being hasty. I mean, like I will say, like like when it comes to the look, I absolutely love the look. So like, I mean, I'm not too sure. I was like making notes on who had what color. I mean, like I will say, like the only thing I will criticize is that I feel they've introduced it too soon. Like we had in episode 2, the introduction, like he just about manages to pull off putting 2 books into his belt. And then he kind of felt the fatigue, and it's like, oh, you're not supposed to put 2 books into your belt. It's too soon for that.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've then got episode 4 and he's putting 3 books in, I'm just kind of like, that's definitely come. Just, like it's, and then they kind of make this whole he was right at the end kind of thing happen. And yeah, like so that's how I felt. But I still thought the look was amazing. Like not necessarily the color scheme. I mean, color scheme
Yeah.
neither here nor there to me. But I'll definitely
The
say like the look, like the sharp lines around the helmet.
yeah.
I absolutely love
The
that, and
I'm not gonna
sort of like
lie.
stripe down the
The
middle. It's a
aesthetic.
bit like extreme, like double extreme
I'll give you that.
vibes.
I give you that. Like it did give off, like aesthetically, with all the divisions and all, it did give off double extreme. The color, on the other hand, I cannot go with, but aesthetically, it looked okay.
I mean, I think
Now,
like if they're going to be doing, depending on how often they're going to be doing like the 3 book forms, it will be interesting to see what color combinations they do come up with. So if they've gone with Primer to begin with, I mean, a lot of
I,
people saying that this series is a lot like Sentai at the moment. So that
I
would be neither here nor there.
okay. Number one, how in regards to Sentai. Number two, I think they're going to go down
Oh,
the
in
Oto.
terms of how, like, I mean, a lot of people have made like make a lot of like, there's a lot of similarities between Saber and regular Sentai. I mean, let alone the end dance that we previously talked about. But I will say, like, I mean, again, to detract from that, the one thing you did bring up, I mean, of course, a point that everyone has been talking about is muscular Tinkerbell. So, like,
Oh no, please no,
you
no,
know,
sorry,
I can see
don't
how
go
funny
there.
that was. I could definitely see how
No,
funny that was. I could see why it's blown up virally as a meme and stuff. But you know, like because this woman who played that muscular Tinkerbell, she's actually like a somewhat famous bodybuilder in Japan. And
oh please.
I'm thinking to myself, like in honesty, if a female bodybuilder wanted a role in Rider, they could have definitely have found something a lot more substantial than kind of like a brief role as Tinkerbell. But maybe we'll see her more often or not. And then,
If you're gonna, why not just if you're gonna do a bodybuilder, give a Buster? It would have made more sense.
um, well, but then she'd have been a mother then. I mean, like we don't really see. Like again, we've not really seen
No, no.
a
You see my
rider who
point?
fathers a child. So let alone a mother who fathers a child, right? So that's neither here nor there. But like maybe like as a regular rider would have definitely be good. I mean, I'm still holding out for Saber to have a female rider, just as 01 really blew it away with Valkyrie, right? So it would, and again, if we're gonna have so many riders, and again, I said it in my chart rundown that Kamen Rider Fem in Ryuki was a completely wasted opportunity. Bearing in mind, Showa era had Tackle, who was an amazing character. So I do think that that they can be. I mean, again, like because when it comes to Saber, I mean, in comparison to 01's fighting style, I mean, we've definitely got some clever fight scenes in Kamen Rider Saber, but I'll say they're still quite minimal. And I do like, I mean, again, like we've already talked about Kamen Rider Buster's character style, his suit. But I mean, again, just to emphasize a little bit more, even his fighting style, I actually like. I mean, the new villain as well that they introduce, Caliber, he does look cool. I mean, it's giving me that, like, the snake guy from Ryuki.
Oja.
Oja. Yeah, so it's definitely giving me Oja vibes.
Agreed. I'll give you that. Yes.
And like, right at the end, we do see Espada, who is Kento. And, and again, it just leaves me wanting more straight up.
Right. I was going to add one thing, and I'm going to nitpick on this that I don't approve. How Buster uses his swords to henshin, I have no problem with.
Okay, he puts
What I,
one ride book into his sword. Yeah, go on.
but then he takes it out, and then to get a power up, he puts a new book in there.
Yeah.
That no, I don't approve. The reason I say that is because you'd think if you take the book out, you de-ancient.
Okay, alright, I see.
You know, like it's just a nitpick for me.
No,
If you
I get you,
stand
I
there,
get you. Mm.
it's a little.
I think maybe a sort of deactivation would probably be. I mean, again, you got to bear in mind there's lots of little buttons as well, and then
See,
maybe it's maybe after he performs a Satsu attack and then takes out the ride book, that would de-henshin him possibly.
I don't know. Anyway, but I don't know. I just think, in regards to what you were mentioning earlier about the whole Power Ranger issue thing, that I will, to a degree, agree that the color palette does feel very Power
Sentai.
Ranger-esque, Sentai-esque. That you've got red for Saber, blue for Blade, yellow for Spada, black or grey for Buster, and then they're introducing whenever the hell Kenzang, which is green.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about at the beginning. Kenzan, yeah, that's the name. I should have mentioned that name at the beginning, but I couldn't remember any names. Yeah.
Anyway, but as a whole, as a story continuation, as a story progression, if you will, I liked it. As the introduction to Buster and his not so much origin, but just the character development. I loved it. The interaction with him and his son, I loved it. And just to see this much in 2 episodes gets me more hyped as to what there is to be with him, to be honest, because now I couldn't give two toshes about the main riders. It's Buster and his story as the Earth swordsman, if you will. That is what interests me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think we'll end it on that note. So I do thank everyone for watching. You can catch us all on the social medias as per. We've got my boy Winter Cosplayer. He's on Facebook and Instagram. And then there's ourselves, the Topic Bros. There's this YouTube channel. We're on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on Twitter at Topic Bros71. And finally, myself, Ryukiba of Ryukiba Toku. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my own YouTube channel, as well as Patreon and my WordPress, ryukibatoku.wordpress.com. I have finished my Tokusatsu chart rundown, so do feel free to watch it in full, all 2.5 hours of it. And then Toku Unboxing will be resuming. I've decided to actually split the rest of my videos across two sets of uploads. So that will be like a series 3 will probably be about 15 to 20 videos, as well as another series 4 of another 15 to 20 videos. So do stay tuned for that. And as always, me and my Toku Bro, fist through the cam.
Fist through the cam.
See you next time.